Hello, Sarah Sabin, Executive and Team Coach here in the Leading in the Modern Way video interview series. And I am super excited to have with me here today Jennifer Bittinger, who is the President at Narrativa. Jennifer, hello, welcome to the show. And could you briefly introduce yourself to my listeners?
Yes. Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's always exciting to meet another wonderful gal who's excited about entrepreneurship and startups. So it's great to be here. A little bit about my background. I'm currently serving as president of Narrativa, generative AI company, and we are, I would say, a seasoned startup. We have been around for a while, since 2015. And we survived, one of the AI winters, as we call it. But I help to oversee all of our business development and operations in North America. And I'm excited to be here today to share about what we're doing in AI and some of the practical applications that we are implementing now for many different corporations. So it's great to be here. Thanks, Sarah.
Fantastic. And as it happens, AI is a bit of a pet subject for me. I find it fascinating. So I would love to know more about the exact space of AI that you're in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what's interesting, just to give a little bit more of our history. So Narrativa was originally founded in 2015 in Madrid, Spain, by David Llorente, our founder and still current CEO. And he had two successful exits from marketing agencies that he had founded. And his biggest problem that his clients were always telling him during those times of having marketing agencies was that they never had enough ongoing, engaging content in means of white papers, long tail, short tail articles, marketing assets. So it was a constant problem. Even though he had many copywriters, copy editors and teams, it just kept coming up. So he had a background in computer science. He contacted two colleagues, former colleagues of his who were data scientists. They built their own proprietary AI software. And this software became really the core nucleus of what our entire platform is built on now. And during that time, they started in 2015 by servicing only media, entertainment, and finance clients. So in a sense, using the NLG, natural language generation, and natural language processing capabilities of this software, they could turn large data sets like proprietary data or even public data like RSS feeds from the stock market index, and they could turn it into ongoing engaging content. Wall Street Journal articles, about the stock index, or even sports articles. So they were doing this very well. From 2015 to 2019, they really grew in Europe. And then I came on board in 2019 when I connected with David through a mutual friend. And he said, well, Jennifer, I know that I've heard you're very good at building brands. And that's my background. My background is in tech and media, growing brands, whether it was with ExxonMobil, Hulu, Shell, Chevron, Adobe, Cisco Systems. I love to build a great brand. And so that's when I came on board in 2019. And ironically, at the same time when I came on board, we got several large knocks on our door from Sanofi, Merck, Almirall, TCS, and other pharma sponsors and biotechs asking us if we could use the same proprietary AI software to turn clinical trial data into clinical regulatory documentation that goes to the EMA and FDA, the regulators. So it was a really big opportunity, but very scary at the same time, because you're dealing with some of the most highly regulated data in the world, right? And it has to be that way for our sake, right? For our health, to make sure people are protected. So from 2019 to 2021, we did many different pilots with these pharma companies and biotechs and CROs, contract research organizations, to just even have access to data from previous trials that were already complete, so we could actually build out the knowledge graph and all the machine learning that we needed to service these kinds of highly regulated documentation or documents. So now, since 2021, we have successfully also serviced life sciences companies. So we've worked with those companies, Sanofi, Merck, Almirall, TCS. But then on top of that, we've also done pilots and now have ongoing contracts with different pharma sponsors, biotechs, and even nonprofits who are running clinical trials. So our use cases keep growing, and it's exhausting to kind of talk about all that. But at the same time, it's very exciting. I think Narrativa is growing and evolving, I would say, into being not just focused on one industry. At this point, we are industry agnostic. We actually have one generative AI platform now that is a pure SaaS platform, where it has one platform with endless use cases. So whether you are the marketing team at Pfizer or you're the R&D, research and development team, you can use the same platform to generate different types of content. So it's really an exciting time. And I think it's going to keep evolving as, the models get more robust, and as even our processing gets more robust, to run this software.
That's really interesting. And there's a few points I want to pick up on from what you said. So the first thing is how you joined the company 4 years in. And I think, to be an entrepreneur, you don't have to necessarily be there from the beginning of the journey. It's about bringing in the skills that are needed within the founding team to round it out and enable that growth. But the other thing that was really interesting about what you said is the way that Narrativa followed almost the trail of breadcrumbs. And went into various industries, created use cases around that, and realized the general application of the AI that you were building. And I think we can all get too caught up with pigeonholing and being like, no, I only work with this specific industry or this specific niche. But as you say, if you can be truly industry agnostic, that diversity is actually good, in my opinion, for the long-term sustainability and evolution of the business.
I agree 100%, Sarah. I think, first of all, the more entrepreneurs I meet, the more I hear the common theme that you should never have a set plan that you think this company is going to always be X, Y, and Z, because it may not. And if you're stuck to that plan, you may actually hurt yourself and hurt the company. I mean, I always think of Jeff Bezos, he's one of the best examples. So he started, Amazon as a book selling website, right? During the .com era. I mean, I'm old enough to remember this is like, that was his dream, right? A book selling website. And then little did he think it would actually morph into an online marketplace, right? Really reselling products for other companies and being a distributor. Really, he's more of a distributor now. So it's, at this point, I would say we have to, in some time, and it's hard because people will constantly tell you, like all my investors tell me, stay focused, right? Stay laser focused. That is key. And Bill Gates talks about it. Warren Buffett talks about it. Stay laser focused. Very important. But don't be afraid of the pivots that may happen in that laser focus. For us, we thought for sure that our end goal in Narrativa was gaming, media, and entertainment content, because it was a fast sales cycle, right? So it seemed like, okay, that's going to be maybe our end game. And then we're just only going to service those industries. But then when we were completely took by surprise, when these large pharma companies started coming to us saying, we need help, and they're presenting their needs to us and their pain points, then the light bulbs start going off. with our team, and we're realizing no one else has done this yet. In fact, Narrativa to this day, we have only one other main competitor in the life sciences space who is at the level that we have gotten to so far with AI automation for clinical documentation. So the fact that there may be a trail that's brand new and you may have to go through all the painful parts of trying to even, bulldoze down that trail, I guess, or cut the trees down. I always say I have splinters in my hands, figuratively, because of all the trees I've had to cut down in the forest. Because the hardest thing for us, and this is just completely honest, since we've been around since 2015, I've been in this business of AI since 2019. I feel like it's been the hardest thing just to try to educate the market as to what AI really is. Mm-hmm. That was so hard. And just trying to get a phone call or a Zoom call with a company was very difficult because they didn't even know what AI was. Now, the last year and a half, almost 2 years with Chat GPT, Dolly, and all these other, and OpenAI really kind of publicizing everything in a large way that's ready for consumer use, that has definitely helped to educate the market more. But it's not the level it needs to be yet.
We're still the buzzword stage where people are like, AI, okay, I'm interested, but they don't necessarily understand more.
Yes. In fact, right now I'm working on this MIT course and kind of helping with some of the coursework at MIT. And it's just a CEU, continued education unit, for professionals if they want to take it. And one of the things I'm shocked by is that the majority of the students in the course are actually, they're not from AI companies, which is understandable. They're from finance, marketing agencies. They're from insurance companies, different types of corporations, but they have a very small understanding of what artificial intelligence and machine learning actually is. So it's not bad. That's not a bad thing, but it's exciting now to see their light bulbs start going off when they're like, oh, I could totally use this for this type of use case in my, with this team at my company, or I could, we could automate the email, A/B multivariate testing with machine learning. So there's a lot of great stuff that people are now just excited about. And I think the fear has kind of subsided. Hollywood may still bring in those fears about AI, but at least in the day-to-day workplace, I think people are seeing it's a tool. It's not going to take your job. It may change portions of your job, just like Microsoft's Office Suite did, right? Or Windows, or so there's going to be change. That's inevitable. But if you keep flowing and evolving with the change, it's only going to make your life better. And that's what I keep telling a lot of people.
And I think that kind of encapsulates a lot of what you've been talking about, both in a business and in an AI context. Flow with the direction that you need to go. Don't resist it. Change is inevitable. And I think also as well, to come back to your point on laser focus, yes, it is important to be focused, but you can focus on one thing and then go to the next thing and then go to the next thing. And that's what pivoting is, essentially. If you don't pivot, if you don't change, probably eventually a company will die. I mean, even if we're talking about a space like AI, if your knowledge as a company of AI doesn't evolve and change over time, then eventually what you're doing will be obsolete. So change is just inevitable.
Yes. And unfortunately, I've already seen, I would say, at least a handful of AI companies that were our competitors already fold because of that. One of them was bought for a pretty significant amount of money, but they were absorbed by the company that acquired them and forgotten, which is really great if you just want money. But I'm the kind of person, I get up every day to say, I want to do something that matters. And I want to help people. That's kind of part of my DNA. That's who I am. So I don't want to work just to get a paycheck. I want to work to make a difference, to make sure that whatever I'm doing is going to somehow make an impact for the people after me, for the generations to come after me. But that's just how I am. That's kind of my outlook on the world. Some people don't have that outlook, and that's totally fine. But I would say, it's interesting to go back to the question you had earlier about getting into a startup, even when it's not the founding season, right? If you're not the original part of the original founding team. With Narrativa, I came on board 4 years after it was founded by David Llorente, and he had some other folks who founded the company with him originally. And they had some, as I would say, some rough waters where they could not agree on certain things of where they wanted the company to go, or which products needed to be their main focus. And so sometimes that happens. In fact, it happens more times than not, where founding teams cannot always agree, right, on what the laser focus needs to be. And so I was actually happy to come in after the kind of some of the stuff had died down that was, okay, now we're focused, right? I came in more when the company was more focused and had a more robust team to really grow quickly. And for me, that was exciting because David can tell you the first few years were just mainly working on the software. He could hardly get many sales because he didn't have much to sell at that point. So when I came on board, they had a much more robust software that was ready, to be servicing more clients. And so I think people should, again, be open to conversations of, okay, if I come on, then what am I coming into, right? I always say business relationships are like human relationships. So you need to really get to know each other. I would advise startups, or I would advise people who want to be entrepreneurs and get involved in a startup, do your due diligence, right? There needs to be kind of like that. You build a friendship to get to know each other. Then you need to court each other. I look at it like dating, like where you, get to know each other, your background, show some skeletons in the closet. You need to talk about that, right? What were your failures in the past? What were your successes? And then when you sign that contract to be involved as a new founder, right, with this company, very involved, or a new C-level or executive, then you really have to look at it as this is a long-term relationship. And there's going to be good, there's going to be bad, but I always tell my team, honesty and respect is going to be the most important thing that we have as a team. And that's what I really like about working with David is from the beginning, he's always been honest, kind and honest. And I think, I've had other people I've worked with in my career over 20 years that they were honest, but they weren't always kind. So it's just really getting, as an entrepreneur, you so badly want to get involved, but be careful, because you don't want to always just look at the numbers and the dollar signs. You really need to look at who you're going to be working with on a day-to-day basis, because that's going to make or break your life. It can add a lot of stress, unnecessary stress, or it can add a lot of joy and a lot of excitement and keep you going.
I 100% agree with that. And, I echo the point that at the beginning of founding a company, it can often happen between a team of people that are misaligned. It actually happens. Yes. It actually happened to myself because, you found a company and you have diverging visions at some point. And it is what it is. But I love the fact that you've kind of brought this taking on a leadership role within a startup down to a dating analogy, because of course you wouldn't go on a first date with someone and then say, right, let's get married. I don't know, maybe some people do.
I hope not.
I would say in general, that's not how it works. It takes
Yeah.
time to build up the trust and to really feel that person out to see if you are going to work well together. And that's really the thing I want to emphasize. Working together with people can either be a nightmare or a joy.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
So in terms of how you define strong leadership, what do you see as the qualities making up a great leader?
That's a great question, Sarah. I think, well, there's several qualities. Number one, for myself, and this is just what I've experienced in my career, working with some great leaders, but now what I see in our own company and with other clients that I service, the best leadership attribute or trait is, I would say, humility. And that can be redundant. A lot of people say, well, humility, but humility is a very large word. A lot is entailed in that. But one of the key components in that humility is being very diplomatic and a team player. So I think one of the things that makes our Narrativa team so great, even this morning, I was on a 6 a.m. call with my team doing an online Zoom holiday party. It's great because, like David, my CEO, and myself, we are right there. We're never too busy to take time for people. And you can do that in a smaller startup setting, right? Where you have maybe 30 or 40 people. When you get larger, it's harder, right? The more people you have, the more ways you're getting pulled in all these different directions. But humility and being approachable is one of the key, those are the key factors I find in leadership, that if you don't have an approachable personality or attitude, then it's going to be very hard for you to grow a very strong team, especially in a startup. Startups, everyone's wearing multiple hats. So you may be over operations and marketing and helping with sales all at the same time for a year, 2 or 3 years. That's the norm. You may be the graphic designer and the web designer and a programmer. You're going to have multiple hats. So everyone needs to be humble, and second of all, and team player. And then third, you need to have, you need to be flexible with people. Flexible mean you need to make sure that if you're all working remotely and you're demanding, a project is demanding X number of hours to get it done, and that it's going to take your programmers, at least, 60 to 100 hours, right, to get this one deliverable done for a client. Then when it's done and the next week they need to take half the day off to go on a field trip with their son to school, or, their school field trip, or to take their mom to the hospital, let's give and take, right? You need to be understanding and say, yes, of course, you've been working so hard. Yes, take half the day, or a whole day off. You need to, make sure you're taking care of your family. So I think there needs to be a balance. You require so much work in a startup environment, but at the same time, you need to give time for rest. I would say rest, or just rejuvenation. Allow your team to know that they're loved and appreciated by the flexibility that you give them in their schedule. Now, it's different. Sometimes I've had experience where I've hired folks who were very talented, come from a corporate world environment, working 9 to 5, clock in, clock out. And it was difficult because they didn't get their work done. They thought, well, I clocked out, so it just, I turned my computer off and I'll get to it on Monday. But in a startup environment, as you probably know, Sarah, that's not how startups work. Usually, we try to have balance with work-life balance, but when there's a project, you have to get it done. You don't have time to just say, well, I'll come back to it on a Monday morning. So it is a different type of work environment, especially we all work remotely. My team does. So you have to be self-disciplined. You have to be self-initiating and get your work done. So it is different. The last thing I would say for a great leader, and this is maybe my fourth or fifth point, and I'll end on it because, again, it's been told to me quite a few times the last few weeks. I was at NYU on Thursday speaking and with a lot of MBA students. And I would say there's all types of intelligence. And I would say from my own perspective, my intelligence was never your typical high IQ, or I was never the best in math or science. I always did tons of extra credit to make sure that I got an A. I was, I could always write you great essays or quote Shakespeare, whatever those things. I was more of a right brain creative. So I never thought of myself as super intelligent or a great leader in business. But I was really encouraged when some of my mentors said to me, Jennifer, it doesn't matter how intelligent you are or what your IQ, the most effective leaders of the world, not just in business, but in politics and the world, it always comes down to energy. Mm-hmm. And at first I was like, energy. What do you mean by energy? And they said to me, this one gentleman said, you just have to have enough energy to keep going. Mm-hmm. Those who don't stop are the ones who will succeed. I mean, look at Steve Jobs. I mean, I love reading about his life. My husband grew up down the street from him. My husband was a little younger, but they went to the same school. And I love that with Steve Jobs, he had quite a few failures. He was laid off from Apple. He was, no longer the CEO for a while. He had lots of failures and he had many successes. But the key element that he had was energy. Even when he had cancer, he kept trying. And so I think as leaders, and especially startups, you're going to need that energy. So try to find for yourself how to get more energy, whether that is taking a nap, whether that's doing yoga, whether that means turning off your computer, by 6 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock, whatever it is, you have to find ways to find that balance so you can maintain that energy because you're going to need it if you want to succeed. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you know what, that links into the flexibility point that you said, because working in a startup is hard. There's going to be seasons where you need to work really intensively. And if you do that at full tilt for years on end, you will burn out eventually. That is inevitable. So it's just understanding what balance looks like for you. And I love the fact that you kind of gave a few examples there, because it does look different for everyone. Mm-hmm. The answer is not always meditation. The answer is not always, taking 5 weeks holiday a year. So it's taking the time to find out what it is that works for you. And, you're talking about flexibility for your team, but it's also that flexibility for yourself and discovering what fires me up as a leader and creates that energy that I need to just keep going. Because you're right, half of the battle is just keeping on. Yeah. So, yeah. Jennifer, last question. If you could go back in time and give one piece of advice to your 20-year-old self, what would that be?
Don't date that bad guy. No, okay.
Me too.
Oh my gosh. I have a lot of things I probably could have done differently, but it's okay. Then I wouldn't have any good tips to give now if I had only made right decisions. So I would say to myself, again, starting out in media and then in tech, I never thought of myself much as a businesswoman, especially at age 20. I thought for sure I was going to be in entertainment. I was in television. I was working in television even before I went to college. So I thought, that was it. That was all I was going to do with my life. I would say take more classes in finance. That sounds so trivial, but I even now, I have a 9-year-old son who he's very artistic and brilliant. He's a great artist. And at the same time, my husband and I were like, here's what you need to know about, money. Here's what you need to know about economics. And we're trying to teach him in a very elementary way, but trying to teach him how to manage money, how to manage your own personal money first, so that then as you grow and you want to start a business or, work for a company, you know how to manage budgets. I think it should be mandatory, and who knows, if I ever run for an office, a political office, I'll definitely have this on there. But I think it should be mandatory that our education systems have basic finance classes for students starting in high school. There should be economics 101 that you have to take, and there should be, business 101, because those skills will help you in every part of your life, both personally and professionally. How to pay, how to apply for a car loan, or why should you pay off your credit cards every month? So all these basics that I wish at age 20 I would have told would be really helpful for the rest of my life. So that's my 2 cents.
I 1000% agree with that. It's something that's not taught in schools at all, and it's literally integral to everything. And I think when I was 20, the only thing that I thought about was pensions, which are, well, certainly in the UK, you're probably never going to be able to retire if you just think about pensions. So yeah, 100% resonate with that point.
Yeah, so I think it's important, because money, my grandfather always said, money's not everything, but you need it. It's a tool, right? And it shouldn't be your whole, life's happiness shouldn't be based on money, but you still need it. You need it to pay your bills, to feed your family, or feed your dog or your cat. You need money to survive. So it should be something that we're not afraid of, and something that we embrace as a tool. It's just numbers, and it's all about timing and numbers. And that's how we should look at it.
Yeah, it's just numbers. There doesn't need to be any energy or thoughts around it.
I know.
Thank you so much for this conversation today.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
And to my listeners, I hope that you've enjoyed this conversation as well. If you would like to take part in the Leading in the Modern Way series, please do reach out to me. Bye for now.